From Anshe Sfard Beth El Emeth Congregation, it's time to take 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.
Welcome to our discussion of Parshat Bo. If we look at the Jewish people and their actions during the Yetziat Mitzrayim, throughout the entire period of the Exodus from Egypt, during the 10 plagues, they are extremely passive. We don't find the Jewish people playing an active role in their own redemption. It's Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu, all the way through. And the Jewish role is minimal. As a matter of fact, in Kabbalistic literature, this is known as Nahama de Kisufa, as an embarrassing bread, a bread of shame that the Jewish people were not able to partake of their own redemption. But then what merit did they have to actually receive the redemption if they were not involved? And one Midrash says that the Jewish people, you know how they were redeemed? Lo nigalu Yisrael, ela bizchut ishtachavaya. It was because of this one verse we'll read now, in which the Jewish people bowed and thanked God for the redemption. That's why they were redeemed. The Torah says that Moshe Rabbeinu tells them that one day their children will ask them, what is all this service all about? And they'll tell them that it's a Pesach service, and that God jumped over the houses of the Jewish people, and we were saved. And then the Jewish people bowed, vayikod ha'am. The people bowed, vayishtachavu, and they prostrated themselves. This prostration, this bowing, this thanksgiving that the Jewish people did was their redeeming act of being involved in the redemption. Here they affirmed the redemption itself. Here they actually did something, and for this they were redeemed. But the question is, why exactly did they bow at this point? And the Midrash has two opinions. One opinion in the Mechilta, the early Midrash, is that it was Besura Ra'ah. They had bad news, and yet, nonetheless they bowed down. The bad news was that one day the Jewish people would have children, and the children would ask, what is all this Passover stuff? What is this Pesach? And you would tell them. And that's bad news, because Nitbasru Yisrael B'otasha Shesof HaTorah Tidal Yishtakeach, that in the end the Torah would be forgotten, and we would have to explain it yet again to the children. And other people say, no, they bowed because it was good news, because B'sorah Tovah Nitbasru Yisrael B'otasha. They were given good news at that time. She'ein atidim lirot banim uvnei banim. They are going to have children and grandchildren, and those children will ask questions, and it'll be wonderful to have children. They were told, yes, you have a future, you will have children, and for this they bowed down. Two radically different views. One, that this story of the question of the children is bad news. One, the story of the question of the children will be good news. Which one is it? What I'd like to suggest is that these two opinions are not arguing with each other at all, but actually it's the same idea. Where there are children, there is, in some sense, forgetfulness. What do I mean? A person in and of himself contains his own memories, and he doesn't forget. When is there tremendous forgetfulness? When do we need to start all over again from scratch? As if we'd forgotten everything. When we have children. Because the children don't know from the mother's milk what happened in the Exodus. They don't know what happened at Mount Sinai. And we have to explain it to them all over again. So it's the good news and it's the bad news. The good news is you'll have children. And the bad news is that the children don't automatically know the story of Jewish history. And you have to tell them. And therefore we understand when the Torah says over and again in this Parsha, this day will be a day of remembrance. Remember this day. The tefillin should be a zikaron b'neinecha. The tefillin are a remembrance between your eyes. Again and again the Torah emphasizes that this Exodus, which the Jews are experiencing now, will be something which one day will be a piece of memory, which will need to be remembered. Why does it need to be remembered? Does the Holocaust victim forget the Holocaust? God forbid. It's the children. The children are the ones who are not born knowing the history of World War II. The children are the ones who could come to forgetfulness. And therefore, it's both the good news and it may look like bad news. You have to start all over again, but that's the good news. The good news is that it's the children who will revive the memory. Professor Samuel Heilman, in his book Defenders of Faith, makes a very important point that it's the children who keep the faith fresh. If not for the children, there could be a sense of doldrums and a sense of Judaism being very old. I learned it from my parents. I read the portion last week and the year before and the year before, and I've read it 100 times. Enter the children into the picture. Children who have never heard this story before. And now all of a sudden, the ideas are fresh. The ideas are new. So the Jewish people, they bowed down to God and they said, wow, the Jewish people will not only have children, we have a future. But not only that, but when those children come into this world, this story which we're living now will come alive fresh yet again. From this perspective, we live in an opportunity of great bad news and great good news. The bad news is that in this generation there are thousands and millions of Jews who don't know our own story, the story of the Exodus from Egypt, the story of Mount Sinai, the story of the 3,500 years of Jewish history. The good news is that we have an opportunity of true remembrance, of true awakening, of a way of bringing that memory back. You know what it means to remember? Remembrance is when you are about to forget it. And today there are so many who have forgotten the story of Judaism. That gives a great opportunity for a rejuvenation of Judaism through all those who don't know. They are the great opportunity to tell the story yet again, and not only rejuvenate the story for themselves, for those who don't know, but also for those who do know. Because for us who know the story of Exodus, retelling the story to those who perhaps don't appreciate it yet rejuvenates our sense of the newness and freshness of this memory, and for us too, it becomes a new memory. I'd like to suggest that through the children, we reclaim our memories. And for this, the Jewish people bowed to God and then got involved in the Exodus from Egypt and did their part in this Exodus. Moshe turned to them and he said, you will have children. They will not know, and you will have to rejuvenate their memory and yours. They bowed down and they said, if there be children, there will be a renewal of memory. And with that, our deeds and our suffering will not be forgotten. And with that, Judaism will remain fresh forever. This indeed is very, very good news. Thank you for joining us for our discussion of reclaiming memory from Parshat Bo. Welcome to join us each week for our discussions of the Parsha, and you're welcome to email me at rabbijmf@gmail.com. I'd like to thank Jason Lefkowitz for making this week's session possible. And again, we remind everyone that what is it that saved the Jewish people? What is it about the Jewish people for which they bowed? They bowed because they were so grateful that A, they would have children, there would be a future, and B, that in that future, we could yet reclaim our memories, and the memories could become fresh again as we tell the story to a new generation who never heard it, as they sit wide open, eyes wide open, waiting to hear and renew their memory, and at the same time, ours as well. Thank you for joining us today.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.